It's chilling, it's haunting. It's really sad that that's how her life ended. It's a lot of passion, rage. You never see her ever again.
Sherry's murder was premeditated. He was planning to kill her.
He thought he was going to outsmart investigators. That didn't happen.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's Crime Exposé takes us to Findlay, Ohio, about 45 miles south of Toledo. This quiet community was plunged into chaos by the savage murder of Sherry Ziessler inside her own home. As police slowly pieced together the evidence, it revealed the awful truth. Sherry Ziessler didn't see her killer coming until she was staring down the barrel of his gun. It was November the 15th at 6:06 a.m. on a barely cold Monday morning when a frantic call came into the sheriff's department.
911, where's your emergency?
65-year-old Brian Ziessler told the dispatcher he had just discovered the lifeless body of his wife on the floor.
There's blood on the floor. Just get the deputies out here, please.
Officers raced to the scene and found 59-year-old Sherry Ziessler surrounded by a pool of blood.
We found Sherry in the master bedroom. There was a large amount of blood that was underneath her. She was laying on her stomach and had her shirt pulled up over her head.
It was clear she had been the victim of a homicide. Was it obvious how she had been killed?
We were able to tell that she had been shot multiple times.
It looked as if the killer had dropped the murder weapon before fleeing the scene.
There was a Rossi revolver that was found right near her feet.
Detectives asked Sherry's distraught husband to share everything that had happened. He said the night before, he had fallen asleep in the living room. He had always been a heavy sleeper, so when he woke up, he was shocked to see his home have been robbed overnight.
He found the house to be in disarray, like it had been ransacked, with the front and rear doors propped open.
He feared his wife had heard the intruder and tried to intervene.
Someone had broken into the house and Sherry had awoken and confronted them.
However, police found her wallet and other valuables had been left untouched.
There was a lot of high-value items that were just laying around throughout the house that had not been taken.
While Sherry's body was transported to the coroner's office, forensic examiners swabbed the doorways for any DNA or fingerprints the killer might have left behind. So at that point of the investigation, what was going through your mind?
Who could have done this? Is this a robbery gone bad? All those things are things that you're thinking about.
The shell casings and a revolver were sent in for ballistic testing. Officers fanned out, hoping to find a witness. Did any neighbors see or hear anything suspicious that night?
None of the neighbors were able to report seeing or observing anything out of the ordinary.
So no one heard the gunshots?
It's a very rural area. Probably the closest neighbor is maybe a quarter of a mile away. This is just a typical two-story residential home situated out in the countryside with no close neighbors.
As investigators continued scouring the Ziessler's home, they made a promising discovery.
We found 3 security cameras throughout the property.
Where in the property were the cameras positioned?
The front door, the rear door to the residence.
Got another camera back here.
And another was mounted inside the dining room, and that monitored the entirety of the dining room, along with the entrance into the living room, and not quite into the bedroom, but almost.
The Ziessler security cameras were brought to the lab for an analysis. Were you hopeful the crime had been caught on camera?
Getting that footage was critical. Could we see that somebody did try to come in through a back door or through a front door? So getting that information was a critical piece of the investigation. Was this somebody who knew her? Was somebody mad at Sherry? Somebody emptied a gun in Sherry.
59-year-old Sherry Ziessler had been gunned down in her own home. The community believed her death had been the result of an attempted home invasion, which crumbled into chaos when she confronted the intruder. Did people in the community fear this could happen to them as well?
There was shock and surprise. Hancock County is a very rural county. We don't typically have too many murders at all, so it's caused a fair amount of public anxiety.
For Brian and Sherry's 3 grown sons and 4 grandchildren, the pain was almost unbearable. The couple had been getting ready to celebrate a milestone wedding anniversary.
The next day would have been their 30th anniversary.
Did Sherry and Brian have any special plans for their anniversary?
They had planned to go to the vacation destination in southeastern Ohio that a lot of people go to camp and hike and things of that nature. They were planning to go there the following day and spend their 30th anniversary together.
Brian said they had spent the afternoon getting ready for their romantic adventure.
They were packing, making food, and preparing to go on their trip.
The mystery of Sherry's murder deepened when police found the doors to the Ziesslers' home hadn't been tampered with.
There wasn't any sign of forced entry. There were no broken windows. There was no broken door frames.
The evidence caused investigators to shift gears.
You start to eliminate the robbery gone wrong because you don't have any evidence whatsoever.
They wondered if the scene had been staged to make it look like her murder had been the result of a botched robbery. So at this point, what are you thinking? What questions are you asking yourself?
Was this somebody who knew her? Was somebody mad at Sherry? Who are all the potential suspects?
Sherry had been a certified pharmacy technician, and police questioned her coworkers for any leads. So did you get any information from the coworkers? Did they have an idea of who might want to harm her?
She was very well liked, well respected, and all of her coworkers enjoyed being around her. Speaking with several friends and family, we did find that since the onset of the COVID pandemic, Sherry and Brian had become increasingly isolated. We were not able to find any enemies that she may have had. There was nothing that led anybody to believe that something like this could happen.
In fact, at 5 o'clock the evening before, Sherry had a routine conversation with her daughter-in-law.
We found that she had about a 35-minute conversation with her daughter-in-law.
What did they talk about?
Normal small talk, discuss family events, their anniversary, their plans, things like that.
That's the plan.
So does Sherry's daughter-in-law hear any fear in Sherry's voice?
There was nothing suspicious or anything like that led her to believe that Sherry was in any kind of danger.
The autopsy report brought the investigation more clearly into focus. What did the coroner determine happened to her?
There were 6 gunshot wounds, many of which were in the head and neck area. So you have A through the eye area, basically almost straight in as an angle, B to the back of the head. There's another one that is coming down like through the neck area, then ends up in the chest. There's another one that goes kind of in through the head area into the jaw area, as well as another one into upper body as well. Somebody emptied a gun in Sherry. We don't have a bunch of defensive wounds or bruising or anything like that that suggests some sort of like physical altercation.
With so many bullets used, what did that tell you about Sherry's murder?
This was a deliberate act. It was done with some malice and hatred. From the positioning of her body, it appeared she had been cowering on her knees. The gun was fired fairly close.
It suggests that there was a lot of passion, rage.
Detectives believe the security camera footage from the couple's home would provide the key to bringing Sherry's killer to justice. Does he point the gun at her?
He's waiting to ambush Sherry.
The results of Sherry Ziessler's autopsy suggested that her murder had been a crime of passion, which brought everything her husband had told them into question. So what was it that made you doubt everything that Brian had told you?
Brian claimed that he did not hear nor see anything. With the signs of the struggle and 6 gunshots being fired in the house, that was somewhat difficult to believe.
Detectives carefully watched the Ziessler security camera footage, starting with the afternoon before. Sherry had been working on refinishing the floors in their master bedroom.
The couple had been renovating their home and doing some spring cleaning.
Investigators watched Sherry talking on the phone with her daughter-in-law at around 5 p.m.
You have Sherry at 5:07 on the phone, comes back through at about 5:13. You see Brian go into the living room around 5:13 as well. And then at some point the call must have ended, and you see Sherry not on a phone call.
What happens next?
5:20, Sherry is observed walking towards the master bedroom.
And do you see Sherry after that?
You never see her ever again. So that was very concerning.
Minutes later, investigators watched Brian Ziessler storm out of the master bedroom.
The best way I can describe it is he just looks like he's enraged, like he is just incredibly angry.
Detectives saw the Ziessler's cat on the video and noticed its behavior.
And the cat looks at Brian, looks back to the area where Sherry would have been shot, and looks back at Brian.
Clearly something had just happened to pique that animal's curiosity.
So was it at that point that you knew who killed Sherry Ziessler?
It was at that point I figured that Brian had murdered his wife.
Data gathered from Sherry's watch showed her pulse had come to a stop at 5:28 p.m.
The last pulse from Sherry Ziessler was recorded at 5:28 p.m. on November 14th, 2021. And her pulse was a 121. Looking back to the several days prior to that, her pulse had never gone above 90. And so you look at that at 121, the heart's probably trying to pump as much as it can, and it's not doing what it needs to because she has multiple holes and gunshot wounds throughout her body. And so shortly thereafter, Sherry Ziessler died. It's chilling, it's haunting, it's really sad that that's how her life ended.
As detectives scrolled through the surveillance footage, they watched Brian trying to make it appear as though an intruder had committed the crime.
You see him going through the house and basically staging the property to look like it had been ransacked or broken into.
And that wasn't all. 2 days before Sherry's murder, at 8:22 p.m., the cameras had captured Brian Ziessler looking out towards the driveway when Sherry returned from work.
Brian's observed standing there with a handgun in his hand, almost as if he's waiting to ambush Sherry as she walks in the front door.
So does he point the gun at Sherry?
As Sherry enters the door, it seemed to me that Brian had lost his nerve. He quickly shoved the gun into his waistband and hurried off into the living room to hide the weapon.
What did that tell you about the crime?
Sherry's murder was premeditated. He was planning to kill her.
Lab testing determined that Brian Ziessler's revolver had been the murder weapon.
Another point of interest was during the first day of the interview, when we took Brian down to our station to talk to him about what had happened and to get a more detailed statement from him, he had indicated that he had not gone near Sherry. He had just seen her there and had not approached the body. But during questioning, detectives were able to notice what appeared to be blood on one of his tennis shoes. We ended up collecting those tennis shoes, and that blood was subsequently matched to Sherry Ziessler. We knew that her funeral was scheduled for about a week later. We got the warrant for the arrest, and we went to the funeral home where we found him. At the conclusion of the ceremony, we took him into a private room and informed him he was under arrest for the murder of Sherry Ziessler. He let out an audible gasp, and his shoulders slumped. He asked if he could give his property to his son, who was standing in close proximity. We agreed to that, and that's when he gave his son a hug and told him he was sorry. He never really made any other statements to us. I was somewhat surprised as we let him out, there was a smattering of cheers and applause from some of the family members that were there.
Faced with the overwhelming evidence against him, on September 13th, 2023, he pled guilty to murdering his wife in cold blood.
He took some responsibility by pleading guilty to murder, but we never got a confession or full story of what happened. So, I mean, that's something that we couldn't completely give, the whole family, the whys. Why did this happen? Why did you do this? What led to it? Some of the finer details. I mean, obviously we know most of what happened, but really can't give you the why of what happened. She's unarmed and is shot 6 times in her own home. Getting justice for her was really important.
I could only imagine the fear that she felt, and your heart goes out to her and to her family.
The 67-year-old who had tried to pin his wife's murder on an unknown assailant was sentenced to 15 years to life behind bars.
He thought he was going to outsmart investigators. That didn't happen.
Even after Brian Ziessler's conviction, he has refused to explain why he gunned down his wife of 30 years. Prosecutors are hopeful that someday he will explain to the family why he did something so unimaginable. And now it's time for today's Safety Spotlight. Sherry Ziessler's tragic death at the hands of her husband was devastating. If you are in a situation where there is a risk of violence, especially with the presence of firearms or substance abuse, err on the side of caution and take proactive steps to protect yourself. Support and resources are available to help you navigate these dangerous situations. Any threats or physical aggression from your partner should be taken seriously. If your partner is making threats or becoming violent, it is essential to take immediate action to ensure your safety. If you are in a dangerous situation where your partner does have access to guns, does abuse substances, or has made those threats, prioritize your safety by leaving the environment as soon as possible. Go to a secure location where your partner cannot find you. This might be the home of a friend or family member, a shelter, or another safe place. Keep records of any threats, abusive incidents, or evidence of dangerous behavior. This documentation can be crucial if you need to seek legal protection or support. Contact domestic violence support organizations, such as the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE for guidance, resources, and assistance in planning your next steps. Remember, your safety is the most important priority. And again, that hotline number is 1-800-799-SAFE. I'm Nancy O'Dell. For all of us here at Crime Exposé, please join us next time and stay safe.